Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Noctua NF-F12s. Noctua Focused Flow 12 120mm. That's what the 12 stands for. So, I generally wouldn't review these. And I don't know how, but I've ended up making two videos about the same set of fans. Because what I've done is I've separated out the video into this one, which is the H100, and then I've done another one, which is the H80. Now, reason why I've done this is because the Noctua Focus Flow fans, they basically asked me a little while ago whether I would like to take a look at the fans. And I was like, not really. Fans really aren't my bag. Normally something I'd send on to somebody like Gary in the team so that I can focus on other stuff. Noctua said to me, would you like us to just send you some? You just use them, see how you get on with them. I was like, yeah, okay, do you know what I mean? Never turn down something, thanks very much. So I got them. Stuck them on the H100 because I knew I was changing over to the H100 on the bench rig, and I've been using them ever since. And to be perfectly honest with you, I've been trying to find something bad to say about them. And this is how this has come about, because the reason why I've used the H80 and the H100 for these series of videos is because the H100 and the H80 are quite accessible price-wise, entry-level enclosed water cooling kits. But the actual technology behind the heat exchanger, radiator, whatever you want to put it, can be transferred into aftermarket radiators, aftermarket water cooling kits. Not so much heat sinks so much as in the air heat sinks, but definitely towards the water cooling radiator side of things. So it seemed like a good way of hitting two birds with one stone, because there's a lot of you out there, and I mean a lot of you out there, that have bought the H80 and the H100, searching for the videos, have been asking me about the NF-F12s. But also for the dedicated water coolers out there, they're going to know enough to be able to, know that they can transfer all the information in this video over onto their own dedicated kits. So it's not necessarily a Corsair Hydro Series review, it's more a review on the fans. Now, I could do a box opening as I did in the H80 video, but basically inside this you get a fan speed reducer, you get a fan speed extension cable, and you also get a splitter which splits off one PWM connection into two. Don't worry the fact that the PWM's got four connections, because you can still use your three connections on it, unless you've got a male 3-pin, then it won't go into your female 4-pin, but it will go the opposite way round. Now with the Noctuas, there's a lot of stuff on these that you need to know about. I mean, there's tapered edges on the side of the fans. Just like at the edge of the fan, I'm going to rip this box open just to show you. Just at the edge of this fan, just to show you how, they've got into this. The edges of this fan have got little steps on, and that's so that when the air gets pulled in, it's a cleaner line for the air and it's not disturbed. So if the air's cleaner, when it goes in at a smoother curve, it'll actually be quieter. That's why they're there. These blades around the back, you've got the notches here, which again help keep the air nice and clean on the way into the wherever you're blowing it into your radiator. But all of these fins around the outside are different pitches. And they're different pitches and different angles apart, and that's so that that's again to keep things quiet and focused. And the best way I can explain how these fans work is generally with a normal fan, it blows air out all over the place. If you imagine a wet bicycle wheel and you spin it, the air just goes woof, it goes everywhere. With these, rather than it being flung out all over the place, it actually keeps it really focused and straight in. Now, if you imagine a water cooling radiator, if you've got air coming out of the side, it's going to be getting blown into your radiator. It's going to hit the outside shroud of your radiator before it comes in. So it's going to create noise. It may not be a massive amount of noise, but it's still going to create noise. By forcing this straight through your fins, not only do you get all the energy of the air coming out the fans being forced over the fins, but you also don't have it creating an unnecessary noise by going off in directions that you don't want it to. It keeps the air a lot cleaner, and it means that the energy coming out of the fan and forcing the air forward, rather than that energy being wasted, bouncing off of like the side of your rads and stuff like that, actually just, goes straight over the fins. And as you'll see, they are really, really quiet. But you've got these rubber grommets at the side of all the fans. You've got this extra, what they call their SSO2 system with metal bearing shell, because there's a bloody great metal bearing here. And there's also a shell in the middle, a brass shell. that the bearing itself sits on. And pretty much from the ground up, these fans have been designed and specifically built for performance. Now they do carry quite a high price. They're Special Tech, they're $18.99. So that's a lot of money for a fan, no matter how you decide to put it. Nearly 20 quid a fan is a lot of money. So what we're going to do today is see whether they're actually worth that 20 quid. And by doing that, I'm literally setting the bar massively high, because we're going to be comparing them with the standard Corsair fans, which you may not think is too much of a problem. But these fans spin at 1500 RPM at maximum. The Corsair fans, which we're going to be running at 12 volts, spin at 2500 RPM. Now you may say it's all to do with static pressure and CFMs and all that kind of stuff. You'd be perfectly right. But no matter what happens, these are up against it, really. And to be perfectly honest with you, the way I see this review is we're going to see how much worse the Noctua fans are compared to the Corsairs. And all I'm hoping is that these are just abnormally quiet compared to the Corsairs, and that's where the conclusion's going to end. But what we're going to do is we're going to come in, we're going to take a good look at the rig, explain what we're doing again. Then we'll go into the testing. We're going to do Corsair fans first, then a single bank of Noctua fans, and then we're also going to do push-pull as well. But I'll explain all this because I've already filmed it. I know I'm going to be telling you all this, so I'm going to keep my mouth shut. And then right at the end, we'll come back and we'll do a conclusion and see what we think. So it's time for me now to be quiet, and we'll get on with the having a look at the rig and then the testing. Right then, peeps, first things first, we'll talk about our bench system. All hanging off of an Asus Rampage 4 Extreme. We have an Intel 3960X. We're going to be doing 2 lots of tests with the 3960X. We will do 4.6 gigahertz, 100 base clock with a 46 multi at 1.4 volts. And then the second most extreme test that we'll do is 1.5 volts, 48 multi for a 4.8 gigahertz overclock, and it's actually the absolute top end I can get out of any of my 3960Xs. We've got a 7970 here graphics card. It's actually a gigabyte model, but this really doesn't matter because it's not going to affect any of the tests that we're running whatsoever. Memory is Corsair GTX 8 running at 2133, and then obviously the heatsink that we're going to be using is the Corsair H100. At this present moment in time, it's got the 2 standard fans on, and to stop any variables, because what I was going to do is make the fan spin at the same speed as the Noctuas, and basically have it set into the actual main unit of the H100 itself. But the H100 actually varies the fan speeds depending on the coolant temperature on the inside. So to keep things consistent, I've actually got the fans running from 12 volts. So with the Corsair fans, that means they're running at 2500 RPM. When we run the Noctua fans, that means they'll be running at 1500 RPM. So the Noctuas are going to be running significantly slower than the Corsair fans, and we'll need to kind of keep that in mind when we do our conclusion at the end. Now, this isn't the most scientific way of doing it, but what I'm just going to do is I'm going to put the microphone on top of the RAM stick, and you can see me do it, just to give you a gauge of the noise coming from the fans. And then what we'll do is we'll do a quick 10 seconds shot of the Corsair fans, and then I'll cut into the same test with the Noctua fans. Right, admittedly, peeps, this is on a different motherboard, but I've just gone to render the video and realised that I'm not sure what I've done with the clip of the H100 with the NF-F12s on. So obviously this is part of my test rig, so it is on a different motherboard, but obviously all we're doing on this part of the video is just listening to the fans. All the rest of the footage is from the Rampage. So yeah, this is just a clip for the fans. I've not turned the microphone off, it really is that quiet. Right then guys, on to the first of our tests, and we're going to be starting off with the Corsair Fans. As you can see there, the temperature at the bottom is the one that you want to take notice of, 19.7 degrees Celsius. When I took my results though, it was just below that, it was 19.6 degrees Celsius, which is what we're going to be using for our calculations in a moment. Now, if I just move up slightly, I know we're on an angle, so I do apologise, but you can see for the first of our tests we're going to be running at 4.6 gigahertz, 100 base clock times 46, 1.4 volts it's set to in the BIOS. With the load line calibration you'll get that slight variance at the top. It's at 1.416 at the moment. If I zoom out quickly, you can see that we've had Prime running. Now Prime was running for it's been running for about 30 minutes now, it's just after. I took all my results at 30 minutes. What we do is we let the system idle for 30 minutes, and then we run our tests. This is actually the third test that I've run, because I've run each test 3 times with a 30-minute idle in between. It does take an absolute faffing age to do all these tests, but then we work out our it basically makes it fair. And as long as we're within a couple of degrees, then we're happy. It's just to make sure that we've got no wild results. Anyway, the results that we're going to be using are these ones. And we've got, you need to, if you have a look at the last number here, the package, this is the only one that you don't need to take any notice of. We just want to take notice of the cores. We don't want to take notice of the package, which is actually the socket. It's the temperatures above it we want. And when I took my results, I had 69, 63, 59, 62, 67, 64. That gave us an average temperature of 64.83 degrees. If we take away the 19.6 degrees ambient temperature, that gave us a 45.2 degrees delta temperature. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move on. We're going to run the Noctua tests, then we'll do some Noctua push-pull tests, and then we'll move on to 4.8 gigahertz. We will compare all the results right at the very end of the video in the conclusion. So for now, it's time for me to stop the video here so that I can show you some Noctua tests. Right then peeps, 19.2 degrees ambient there. We scoot up, you can see that we are doing the test as before at 4.6 gigahertz, 1.4 volts. Obviously it's just over 1.4 volts because of the load line calibration, but it's all there, the same as the Corsair Fans. Prime has been running, it's actually been running for a little longer now. I just need to move the calculator out of the way, but it's actually been running for a little longer with this one. It's actually been running for about 45 minutes, so it's been put under more stress, if anything. Right, now if we zoom in here, don't forget you don't need to take any notice of the bottom result. I really do need a different tripod. But anyway, yeah, the 72 degrees in the bottom right, you don't need to take any notice of. That score down the bottom there. Anyway, when I took my results, I had 70, 64, 61, 64, 67, 70. Which gave us an average temperature across the 6 cores of 66 degrees. If you take away the 19.2 degrees ambient temperature, that gives us a delta temperature of 46.8 degrees. Now that's with a single set of fans. What I'm now going to go on and do is restart all this, let the system idle for a bit, and then we're going to whack on with some push-pull results at this clock as well. So right, yeah, I'm going to crack on with that, stay tuned. Right then peeps, 19.4 degrees, the temperature at the bottom. That's our ambient temperature in the room at the moment. If we move up, we can see that we're still running at 4.6 gigahertz, 1.4 volts. Obviously now we're using push-pull fans, so a total of 4 fans on a H100. All pushing the same way, obviously. If I zoom out a bit, we can see that prime has been running for just over 30 minutes. And if I zoom in, ignore the 68 degree temperature at the bottom there, because that's actually the package temperature. But when I took my results, I had 65, 59, 56, 58, 63, 65. That gave us an average temperature across all of the cores of 61 degrees. Take away the 19.4 degrees ambient temperature, and that gives us a delta temperature of 41.6 degrees. So, just to put that into context, that's a 5.2 degrees drop by adding the second set of fans, because at the same clock the delta was 46.8 degrees with a single bank of fans. Now for push-pull, that's a hell of a boost, and I'm going to go into this more in the conclusion later on. But what we're going to do now is we're going to move on to 4.8 degrees tests, and then obviously start with the Corsairs, go on to the Noctuas, do Noctua push-pull, and then right at the very end we'll do a big conclusion and wrap it all up. But for now I've got some changes to make to the system, so I will be back shortly. Right then peeps, on to the 4.8 gigahertz test. 21.1 degrees ambient there. You can see the results there, or the readout there. 4.8 gigahertz, it's 1.5 volts, but the load line calibration's adding the rest. You can see there that prime has been running for just over 30 minutes. If I zoom you back in, obviously ignore the bottom score as before, but when I took my results I got 80, 73, 67, 70, 75, 80, 70, 80, sorry, and then that gave us an average score of 74.1. If you take away the 21.1 degrees ambient temperature, that gave us an delta score of 53 degrees. Don't forget that's at 4.8 gigahertz with the 2 Corsair fans on 12 volts, which is like the pump being on max and the water temperature getting to a point where it actually turns the fans up to maximum as well. But now what we're going to do is move on and see how the Corsair fans fare with just 2 fans. And don't forget the Corsair fans are only running at 1500 RPM. Right then guys, 4.8 gigahertz Noctua. You can see there that the ambient temperature is 19.4. When I took my temperature it was 19.3. But anyway, what we'll do is you can see that there. You can see the 4.8 gigahertz, 1.5 volts. I'm sorry it's on an angle. Prime has been running for quite a while, you can see there. Right, now I'm going to zoom you in to the results. Now, take no notice of the 85 degrees at the bottom, because that, if I move it, you can see it's the package temperature. What we actually want are the core temperatures. Now, when I took my results, I had 80, 74, 69, 71, 76, 82. Yeah, that is quite a range, but I've reseated it a couple of times. It just seems to be the way this CPU is. Anyway, that gives us an average temperature of 75.3 on the across all 6 cores. If we then remove the ambient temperature of 19.3 degrees, it gives us an average temperature of 56.03 degrees. And that's obviously on the H100, 4.8 gigahertz, single set of Noctua fans. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm now going to hook up a second set of Noctuas and do our first ever H100 push-pull test and see how it fares. Right then peeps, on to the NF-F12's push-pull. So we've got 4 of the little blighters. You can see there that the ambient temperature is 19.5 degrees. You can see there, just briefly, that we're still running the same clocks and everything. If we come out, you can see that prime's been running for just over 30 minutes. I'm going to zoom back in again, get the camera set up properly this time. There we go. Right, now when I took my results, don't forget, ignore the bottom result. I got 76, 70, 65, 67, 72, 77. That gave us an average temperature of 71.16 degrees. Take away the 19.5 degrees ambient, and that gives us a 51.66 degrees delta temperature. Now bearing in mind, with just 2 fans, the delta was 56 basically. So we've practically lost 4.5 degrees by adding that second set of fans. And if I kind of, well, you're going to have to ignore the state of the office, but I'll zoom out quickly and we'll go over. You can see the test rig running there. I'm just going to take the microphone over. You can't, right, you can't really hear much at all. It's actually, with all 4 of those fans, quieter than when the Corsair is on low or medium and at idle, because obviously the speeds ramp up and down. It's immensely quiet. So right, that's the end of our testing. So now there's only one thing left for me to do, and that's to move on to a conclusion. Okay then peeps, you've made it to the conclusion. And right, we're going to start with the award, and it's a solid performance award. And the only thing that has stopped these from getting a gold really has been the price, because you can't get away from the fact that no matter how good they are, they do cost a lot of money. It would be like saying, like back in the days of when the Mars 2 come out and the Aries and stuff like that, they were eye-wateringly expensive. We gave them the performance award because they did the job they were designed for. They did it very well. They were exclusive, all that kind of stuff. But with a fan is a fan. Do you know what I mean? You can get fans from £1. So a £20 fan needs to work very, very bloody well, and these do. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you about the the performance, and I need to get my bits of paper out because there's a lot to talk about, to be perfectly honest with you. Now, what we'll do is we'll do the Corsair Temps, and then we'll do the Noctua Temps, and I've got to make sure that I look at the right ones. But Corsair at 4.6, and we'll just talk about the delta temperatures, so after the ambient and stuff like that. Corsair at 4.6, we had a delta temperature of 45.2. With the Noctuas, we had a delta temperature of 46.8. That's a 1.2 degrees rise. But don't forget that we had the Noctuas, the Corsairs on absolutely maxi chat. You've heard the difference between the two. Then if we move on to right, okay, sorry, I don't mind. I was going to cut the camera then, but I don't mind leaving it here because basically I was trying to work out what the next one was. And the next one was when we went to push-pull, and I hadn't written it down underneath. But when we went to push-pull, we actually dropped those temperatures to 41.6 degrees. So we took 5.2 degrees off of the Noctua Temps, and then we took 3.9 degrees off the Corsair Temps. So it actually took nearly 4 degrees off the Corsair Temps. Now, I know we are adding a lot of money there, because for push-pull, you're talking, what, nearly 80 quid. So you, is it 36, 38? Yeah. So you're talking 76 quid. So it's like the price of a H80 that you're adding to it. So it's eye-wateringly expensive for the push-pull. But we'll move on. Now the real big one, to be perfectly honest with you, is the 4.8 results. And the Corsair had an ambient temperature of 53. The Noctua, with one bank of fans, was 56, so it was 3 degrees warmer. With push-pull, the Noctua was 51.6 degrees. So, do you know what I mean? You're looking at a degree and a half off. Now, one thing I will say, with the one bank of fans at 4.8 gigahertz, 1.5 volts, that's an eye-wateringly watering clock, I wouldn't be recommending, especially on a 2011 at 1.5 volts to 24/7 use. But the thing was, is when we got up to having to dissipate that much heat, that was when the performance of the Noctuas was literally just starting to tail off. It had got to its peak, and you could see if we'd pushed the volts or anything anymore, the Noctua performance would have fallen rapidly. Whereas the Corsair performance was still quite strong, but it's because of all the noise and everything as well that they were creating. And obviously with the RPM and the CFM that it's pushing through it, it's obviously then it's still been able to dissipate the heat. The Noctua was lacking a bit. By adding that second set of fans, it literally helped bring that little bit more air across the fins and actually brought the temperatures down underneath the Corsairs, but still remaining quiet. Now, one thing I will say, because I'm not going to go in and read any more temps out, one thing I will say is obviously adding 4 Noctuas is an immense investment, because like I said, you're spending kind of H80 money adding fans to an already expensive product, because the H100 is like £95, or no, it's even more than that now, isn't it? But it's a really good product. Now, one thing I will say is, obviously, with the stuff that I get, it's a bit different for me, because I don't look at my wages and think to myself, oh, what am I going to do? But if you are looking, you like the Corsair H100, obviously it doesn't give you the like the problems with RAM and stuff like that, and you're looking for the best you can possibly get. If you've got room for push-pull, you're not going to make that radiator or the unit perform any better quietly. I honestly believe that. We're never going to get to a point, or at least there's nothing on the market at the moment that could make that perform better quietly with active fans on it. But this is also something that you can then transfer into your water cooling rigs as well. You know that a single bank of these NF-F12s is going to work really, really well on your rad. If you're looking for that extra nth of performance, or you think possibly that your radiator's not, you know, quite going to be coping or something like that, then you can still stick that extra bank of fans on. Generally, I say with push-pull in the past, especially when I've tested weaker fans, I've never really been a fan of push-pull. At best, I've seen like 1 or 2 degrees difference, and it's never really been that amazing. With these, you can honestly see a little bit more difference. And another thing that you have to keep in mind is they don't really add any noise to it, whereas the stuff I was doing in the past, they really were. These on a radiator like an RX360, hate saying it, but like the Thermochill radiators, because they're quite widely spaced. Basically the ones with the low fin per inch count, the low FPI count, so the ones around kind of 7, 8, 9 FPI, the ones that have got quite a wide spacing are designed for low RPM fans, low power fans, quiet fans. Those radiators will absolutely adore the NF-F12s. I've not tested them on one of the XSPC EX radiators yet, because that's got quite a high FPI, but they say that that is even designed for quiet fans, and they are designed that way. Although, like I said, I would like to test these on one of those, may get a chance at a later date. So to kind of summarise as best I possibly can, they are expensive fans. A lot of people aren't going to like them because of the colour, but I actually seem to think that in a white rig, obviously I like white rigs anyway, it's quite a well-known fact that I do, I think that the Noctua branding colour works really well. And the reason why they are that colour, I will say, is because it's the Noctua colours. You ever see one of their fans in a rig, you don't think, oh, that's another brand, you know that's a Noctua fan. Which is very clever on their part, because it's subliminal advertising. If you see one of their products, you know it's one of their products. It's actually very cleverly marketed when you give them their kind of like, if you actually sit there and think about it. But my advice to you would be, if you are looking for that nth of performance, you are looking at Noctua fans, you have got a water cooling radiator or some kind of heat exchanger that involves liquid cooling in a radiator of whatever sorts, because obviously there's not just the enclosed units from Corsair, you've obviously got other brands out there like Antec and Acetec and all those kind of ones. They will all benefit from a fan like this and still remain quiet. So if you've got the money for them and you're in the market for a Noctua, I would say personally, for a radiator environment, no matter what type of radiator environment, the NF-F12s are probably, no, they are the best fan that Noctua has ever produced. So it's quite specific, because I've not tested these on a heatsink yet, but we'll see, because I've got one, because I've just got the L12 in. But I'm a massive fan of the NF-F12s. I really, really do like them, to the point where I would happily spend my own money on these fans, because I don't mind the colour at all. I never have done. So for me to say that I'd be happy to spend my own money on these fans, I think that should say a lot. I know I'm not going to have to, but that's not the kind of the point. If they turned around to me and said, you're not having any more, I'd quite happily go out and buy some, because I like them that much. Before everyone posts in the comments and says, I wish they did black ones, I wish they did white ones, I'm 100% with you. If they made gloss white ones of these fans, I would probably fly over there to make sure I got some of the first ones, because they would be so epic. To the point where I wish they would just do some limited edition ones for me. I don't think I could ever pray enough. But like I've kind of explained why they are that colour anyway. So the long and short of it is, the Noctua NF-F12s, you're not going to be getting me doing many fan reviews, but these ones, I think they honestly did deserve it. So a solid performance award. If they were a bit cheaper, even if it was only like £4 or £5, I probably would have given them a solid gold. But at the end of the day, you pay for what you get with these things. They're not just a fan in a box. You get all the kind of design bits in that go with them as well, all the accessories in the box, and you're buying into a brand that's got some hefty heritage. And like I said, you put them in your rig, people know what they are. And that's actually something I've just thought about. If you put Noctua fans in your rig, not only are people going to know they're Noctua fans, but they're going to know that you've been willing to pay good money for them, because everyone knows that they're not cheap. So that's another thing. You can put these in your rig and people are going to know that you've invested some good money and bought into a decent brand for the fans on your rig, rather than just buying some black things that may not necessarily work, or really noisy, or you know what I'm trying to say. But anyway, after going round and round in circles, it's definitely too late. I could have done with a coffee top up, in all honesty. But this is Tiny Tom Logan with, I think, his first proper fan review out.